Voting traditions die hard in this part of South Yorkshire, in the local cinema anyway.
I'd probably lean into Labour, preferably for the policies because that's what we'd like to see, but other than that I wouldn't vote for Conservatives.
They still break for an interval at the Penistone Paramount. For our purposes, the BBC's special effects team have pulled out all the stops. And I'm transported back 6 years, to the day Margaret Thatcher was buried. I reported from the nearby pit village of Goldthorpe, where they held their own funeral. Nearly 30 years after the miners' strike, the hatred of her and all she stood for was still visceral. In Dodworth, the colliery band still rehearses at the Miners' Welfare Social Club.
I think for the very first time in my adult life, I'm not going to vote Labour. And that's not an easy thing for me to say.
I was in Goldthorpe on the day they buried Margaret Thatcher in London.
Me too.
And you were there, were you, when that coffin was paraded through the streets?
The thinking behind it was based on that deep-seated, deeply embedded feeling that people had and still have today about what she did, what the Conservative Party did and how they've destroyed the community.
That's why I'm so astounded that you're thinking I'm not going to vote
That's
Labour.
why I'm so astounded that I'm also in that position.
Ancestral loyalties are being fractured in a region where almost 2/3 voted for Brexit. The only former miner left in this band is also changing his tune.
I have to vote for a party that wants to leave the European Union, and that's how I'm going to vote. And there is only one party.
That's the
And
Conservatives.
deep down it hurts me because I've been a socialist all my life. And my parents were socialists all their lives. And many of my friends, even to this day, are socialists. And even some of those have taken the same view as me and are going to vote against what were their true principles of being a socialist.
So the idea that someone like you, who worked in the pit, is saying to me, you're not going to vote Labour, it's just, it's
mind-blowing. I
back in
accept that, it's
2030.
mind-blowing. And as I said earlier, deep down, it really hurts. But what can you do?
What can Labour do in Penistone and Stocksbridge, whose former MP was a Labour Remainer? She left the party and her constituency for the Liberal Democrats, a sign of how Brexit has untangled political certainties.
Well, Boris comes over, as we say, as a warman.
What does that mean?
That means he's friendly, with, you know, attractive to women, or, you know.
A bit of a lad.
Yeah, a bit of a lad, yeah.
The weekly knit and natter at Penistone's Café Creme.
Do you pick up that those sort of old loyalties to Labour are shifting?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I mean, we do have political debate in here, as you can imagine, but it's so wide and varied as to what people think. You can have a full conversation around a table and there's somebody that's wanting each one.
Is that different from what it used to be like?
Yeah, I think it probably is, actually.
My family have always been Labour voters, so I sort of followed along because I was never really into politics as such. But to be honest, I have no idea who I'm going to vote for because I don't believe any of them.
Could you bring yourself to vote Conservative having been a lifelong Labour voter?
No.
In the local elections, I voted Liberal.
Was that unusual for you?
It was unusual for me, yeah.
And in a sign of how allegiances may be even more fluid than we imagine, Fiona, who most recently voted for the Brexit Party, may be enticed to Labour by its promise to women like her who lost out over changes to the pension age.
You know, even if he pays, there was a suggestion it were going to be £100 a week. Well, that's a lot of money, that, when you're, you know what I mean, when you've given up your income.
Here you go, polo neck.
We try not to talk about politics, don't we, at times?
Labour has 2 weeks to win round its voters in Leave-supporting constituencies. Despite the party's Brexit position, Paul offers it hope.
Yeah, the Labour is letting us down. They should have left. We should have left. We should have left it 3.5 years ago.
But you're still going to vote for them?
I'm still going to vote Labour. I can't vote anything else. Inside myself, I can't vote anything else but Labour. I like Corbyn. I like him. I think he's more honest than most of them, right?
And even if some others here are deserting Labour, it may be too soon for the Tories to bring on the trumpets.
I can't vote Conservative.
You can't.
That was anathema. You know, I'd sooner put my eyes out.
Part of the Conservative strategy is to get Labour Leave voters to vote Conservative.
Yes, I understand that.
But that's not working on you.
No, it's not.
Do you think that could work for other people around here?
I'd be very surprised.
I talked to my family and friends, and they've said to me it's going to stick in the throat, but the only way to get what they voted for in the referendum in 2016 is to vote Tory. And it's going to stick in the throat to do it.
Do you think that they'll do it?
I think there's a fair number will do it, yeah. Yeah.
Which of them is right will decide what happens in these Labour heartlands and could determine who governs the UK for the next 5 years.